Buckingham Palace has announced that the Queen is going to host a state visit to the UK by President Trump in June. Mr Trump will hold talks with Theresa May at Downing Street, but it's not yet clear whether he'll address the Parliament during that three-day visit. So what do we know about the details of the visit so far? Well, the three-day visit to the UK will be from the 3rd to the 5th of June. Once inside Buckingham Palace, it's expected the Queen will host a banquet for around 150 guests in Mr Trump's honour. In addition to meeting the Queen, the President will have a meeting with Prime Minister Theresa May. Donald Trump will then attend a ceremony in Portsmouth to commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day and will then travel to Normandy on June the 6th for further Normandy commemorations. Wow. With me is columnist and author Owen Jones, and I'm also joined by Chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Sarah Elliott. Thanks to both of you. Owen Jones, if I can just start with you. It is the D-Day anniversary celebrations. Inevitable that President Trump would be invited to that, you might think, and he is one of the UK's most strategically important allies.
Well, firstly, very few presidents get the honour of a state visit. It is an honour. Only 2 of the US presidents have been conferred that particular honour. That's something which gives him legitimacy and respectability from his closest ally. But you mentioned D-Day. Let's talk about D-Day. What was D-Day about? D-Day was about the conquering of the forces of racism and fascism in the continent of Europe, which led to the deaths of tens of millions of people. We are seeing today the far right at its strongest that it's ever been, and the man most, if you like, associated with legitimising the far right internationally, an icon of the far right and of white supremacists, is President Donald J. Trump. And he is a man whose actions have consequences for all of us.
Okay, those are very strong allegations. Let me just put those to Sarah Elliott.
Yes, well, first of all, he's very legitimate in the sense that he's democratically elected by the American people. And I would like to point out that 700 counties voted for President Obama twice, and 230 of those counties voted for President Trump. He did not win because of white supremacists. He won because he had an argument, a campaign, and he spoke to the people and what they wanted to hear, unlike his opponent.
Okay. Well, this is not about rerunning the first election. It might be, though, something to do with the second election campaign of Donald Trump. Why does he want to come to the UK, do you think?
Well, I think he wants to come to the UK because he wants a free trade deal with the United Kingdom when it leaves the EU. He also wants to underline the fact that the Anglo-American alliance is as strong as ever in combating evil in the world and protecting the free world. And I think as the Anglo-American alliance led in the 20th century, it will continue to lead in the 21st century.
And Owen Jones, I mean, there is no question that on matters like security, intelligence, that US-UK partnership is crucial for both nations and for many others.
Well, the trade deal was just mentioned there. We don't want a trade deal. The vast majority in this country have chlorinated chicken and a race to the bottom in
Well, I'm talking about security and intelligence.
Well,
and
that's one aspect of the relationship that's just been raised,
doesn't it?
We should always have relations with the United States of America, but we should also stand up for values which I think the vast majority of people support on both sides of the Atlantic. You know, we're talking about common values that millions of Americans and British people share, which is to abhor misogyny and racism, transphobia, homophobia, and, for example, against not taking or making the climate crisis, which is an existential threat to humanity, worse by pulling out of the Paris Agreement, which was an international agreement which both Britain and America signed up to. Climate change is a security threat to this country. It's a security threat which will kill people and will force people to flee their homes. So if we're going to talk about our relationship with the United States, let's talk about the common values that I think the majority of Americans who didn't vote for Donald Trump, by the way, share with so many people here. And there's a great American traditions that we want to build on: the civil rights movement, the LGBTQ movement, the women's movement. These are proud American traditions we should be proud of.
Let me bring in Sarah.
And what a better time than a commemoration of the 75th anniversary of D-Day to remember what we do have in common and what we accomplished together. And together as a partnership focusing on our shared values and mutual challenges in the world, what we can face and accomplish. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to be positive. It's also a somber opportunity as we remember the men and women who lost their lives on both sides of the Atlantic. It is not a time to challenge capitalism.
Okay.
And on the Paris Climate Accord agreement, I will say that the United States may not be a part of the Paris Climate Accords, but they're the only ones who are meeting the goals and the quotas of that Paris Climate Accord this year without being forced.
So if President Trump does see a lot of protests, I mean, he was sort of shielded from it last time, is that going to be a problem for him, do you think?
No, I don't think it'll be a problem, but I think it will be an embarrassment to the British people that this is how you welcome your best ally.
Donald Trump is not our best ally. He's someone
the
who
United
the majority
States of America is your best ally, and he is the head of state, and he's the commander-in-chief of the United States military.
Can I answer? Sorry,
and
is that
quite
okay?
frankly, if Russia was to ever attack this country, or there should ever be an external attack, you would be asking the United States to come and help.
Okay.
Well, that, Owen Jones, I mean, that is just factually, you know, there is some truth in that, because that, as I said, that security partnership, the NATO partnership, it's totally crucial, isn't it, to our peaceful future?
I think conflating Donald J. Trump with the United States of America, a brilliant country of such diversity, of such history and traditions, to conflate a single man who is a racist, who is demonstrably
he's in charge at the moment.
Well, yes, fine, and we have to have a relationship with the United States, but we have to also speak the truth. Look, it's just been brought up, the D-Day, the Second World War all over again. Back in the 1940s and 1930s, Jews were scapegoated and demonised and blamed for all the injustices caused by the powerful. Today we are seeing Muslims blamed and scapegoated.
If Donald Trump comes to Europe, he's coming to Britain, he's coming to France.
Right.
Are you suggesting that Britain should not welcome him with open arms, and that just let France and Germany and other nations in Europe take the lead in having a very strong US relationship?
Well, we shouldn't have a state visit, as I've said. There's no Ronald Reagan didn't get a state visit. Jimmy Carter didn't get a state visit. President Ford didn't get a state visit. I could go through it. President Kennedy
more recently
didn't get
there's been many more.
No, the vast majority haven't got one. And actually, if you talk about these European leaders, I've got lots of criticism of them, but they've actually, they've actually spoken in more candid terms about Donald Trump than our supine, cowardly, servile government has done. And if the British government fails to represent the majority of people who reject Donald Trump, then the British people will take to the streets and make it clear instead.
Sarah Elliott, I mean, what do you think? You were talking about a trade deal. From the US point of view, Donald Trump is still investing time and energy to come to the UK in June. What specifically do you think his government, what does he want out of it?
I think that he wants to see a closer relationship with Great Britain. He is a true Anglophile. His mother was Scottish. He has a business in Scotland. America has the most in common with Great Britain than any other country in the world. And we want to see those strengthened, because together we're unstoppable in terms of opportunity and again, tackling the challenges that we face today. I honestly think that it would be wonderful for this country as well as the United States. And, as Great Britain leaves the EU, there's a wide world out there that has their arms open and ready to welcome Great Britain.
And Owen, just on the whole Brexit question, do you think Theresa May, wants President Trump partly because of the stalling in Brexit, and whether that might help her get some progress if she can dangle a potential US deal?
Well, I mean, he was originally invited, Donald Trump, after the inauguration, on the basis of a trade deal. Look, there is a big wing of the Conservative Party who do want a trade deal with the United States of America. It will be a trade deal of chlorinated chicken and a race to the bottom in environmental rights, of workers' rights, and on the hard-won rights and freedoms of this country. And I'm afraid the majority of people do not want a trade deal which will lead to the National Health Service, the proudest institution, one of the proudest institutions of this country, being opened up to profiteering American multinationals.
Do you eat chicken when you go to America? That is my next question.
I was raised on American chicken.
I think we should be proud to have higher standards in the United States of America, and I think we should protect those standards.
Well, I don't have a third eye. I'm perfectly healthy, so I was raised on American products. There's nothing to be afraid of, really, except maybe opportunity, which maybe, Owen Jones might not like. I don't know.
Sarah Elliott, thank you so much. I know it's slightly difficult when you're down the line, but thank you. And to Owen Jones, thank you both very much. I'm sure we're going to hear much more on this ahead of that visit.